So Rings of Power episode 6 is the best episode so far, but unfortunately, that's not really saying a lot. I have so much to talk about with what I just watched. Let's go ahead and dive right into the video. So first and foremost, as anybody else who's been watching along can relate to, this was what I tweeted when I first started watching. I said, my attention span trying to retain any singular interesting thing while watching Rings of Power. This has just been my story for what I've seen thus far. It has been painfully boring. I make myself have to keep my phone away from me because otherwise I'll make a tweet or get distracted and have to keep watching. I have to rewind it just to watch it again because it has been that painfully boring. So I made this tweet, put my phone away, had to rewind a couple times at the start, but it did at least hold my attention span, not necessarily for good reasons, but it did that. Now, first, you see in the opening, you see this big orc, right? And I made this tweet and I said, so inclusive of Rings of Power to give us average Twitter user representation. I feel so seen right now. Thank you, Amazon. So anyway, let me dive right into it. Now, with this account, the Rings of Prime, I've shared some of their memes before, and I want to say I got comments asking, this is the account. It has less than 200 followers, I think, which I don't know how because they come up with the absolute best meme material. So this is how it starts as they've illustrated. He says, let me get this straight. The Southlanders abandon a stone fortress, which is how the episode starts. You know, you see Arondir shooting arrows at orcs and stuff. They're at this stone fortress with a single defensible gate and battlements to return to their exposed thatched village, which is what happened. So they leave this area, and I'm telling you, there is nobody competent in that bunch. It's like, I keep thinking to myself, why is Bronwyn, you know, all 5'0" single mom, being the leader of this village? And I mean, dude, nobody is competent. They are just having a really hard time just existing. So yeah, they leave this, go to the village, just set up some, you know, plan there for the orc ambush and Adar and his orc goons, right? But speaking of this fortress, there is so you see Arondir shoots a flame arrow at this rope, and then the whole tower collapses. It's a single rope was supporting a fortified stone tower. There's so many more memes that this account has shared. That's hilarious. So if you want more meme material and to laugh at this show even more, that's a good way to do it. Now, I will say, trying to look at something positive here, I do think that Adar is a good character, especially compared to what else we've seen. I feel like the actor actually did a good job. Now, obviously, with this entire show, the writing is the weakest part, but even with all of this mess, I think that Adar is somebody who actually fits in. If you're comparing it more to like the Peter Jackson trilogy of Lord of the Rings, for example, I could see him being a part of that. So I will give him credit there, but unfortunately, the other characters, for the most part, apart from Halbrand and him, which both of them I feel like could actually fit in, right? And fit into a lot of our expectations, but other than that, everybody else is just lackluster at best, unfortunately. So anyway, they go in, the villagers are you know, trying to stay alive. They get Bronwyn has this plan and gets these carts on fire, kind of traps them in there, right? So from there, Arondir's able to shoot a bunch of orcs like fish in a barrel, essentially. This could have been a cool fight scene, and it was okay for some parts of it, but then when you start seeing Arondir do some kung fu moves on one of the orcs, it's just a little comical from there. But anyway, so this happens. They think, oh yay, we saved the village. And in much like a SpongeBob and Patrick scene with the fire everywhere, yay, we did it, we saved the village, and then they discover, a lot of people died, and then they get attacked again, and things go downhill from there. We see Bronwyn get shot by an arrow. She had to get it cauterized, all this stuff. And of course she's okay because of course. So it all looks lost at this point, right? We know Adar is after this magical, he's after this magical sword, blood sword, right? So all hope seems lost, but then the Numenorians in their 3D printed unpainted armor roll in to save the day, with Galadriel leading the charge. And this is where we see Galadriel in her armor. Because Amazon, apparently $1 billion budget isn't enough to afford Galadriel being a Magix user. So here we go. Instead we got discount Éowyn. So anyway, they roll in to save the day. It looks like a bunch of cheap green screen action going on, that whole fight scene. And here's where it just gets like, what the crap, dude? Because then Adar manages to get a hold of the sword, right? He gets a hold of the sword. He's riding off on his horse. And discount Éowyn is like, dude, I gotta get this guy. She gets on her horse and like chases him down. And it is actually Halbrand who trips Adar's horse and, stops him, right? So then, from there, Halbrand's ready to kill the dude, right? Because apparently this dude had hurt some of his loved ones. It doesn't go into that much detail, but basically Halbrand's like, Galadriel's like, don't kill him, I need him. And Halbrand's like, you don't know what he's done. And then he's taunting Halbrand, and he's like, oh yeah, talking about a woman and maybe even a child that he presumably murdered, and that has Halbrand shook and wanting his vengeance. Okay, so Halbrand's about to put a sword in him, and Éowyn's like, bro, don't do it. If you're thirsty, don't drink muddy water. Which I don't remember the exact quote, but it was along those lines. A muddy water will not quench your thirst. Don't do it. And then the outright hypocrisy, because she's like, okay, I need him. So then she interrogates Adar because she wants to know where Sauron is. Adar's like, I killed Sauron, and discount Éowyn's like, no, you didn't. I don't believe you. And then she puts a blade to his neck, is like, I'm gonna kill you, which is so hypocritical on so many levels. Halbrand walks in and stops that from happening. But this is where it's like, first of all, why are you one to really talk about Halbrand seeking revenge when that is your entire motivation for this whole thing? That's all it is. You want revenge for your brother, that's okay, but Halbrand can't be seeking revenge. How does this plot make sense? Am I missing something? Am I just missing something out of this puzzle? Because it's just very confusing to me. Then, with the complete cringe, oh my gosh. So then during this scene, she's basically telling him like, oh yeah, you don't need revenge, even though that's her entire thing. He has this monologue where he's like, oh man, fighting beside you, Galadriel, if only I can hold that close to my heart forever. And she's like, I felt it too. Like, apparently, I mean, she says it in the most, she's sitting man spread during this part, first of all. She's like, yeah, dude, I felt it too. There is no chemistry to be had at all. None. Here's the thing, is because when it comes to, when you really want to imply a romance or some sort of feelings or connection, hey, at least with Arondir and Bronwyn, even though these characters are a bit lackluster, at least you're sensing some sort of chemistry when they're talking to each other, when they kiss. I actually do feel like they care about each other. So there is that. But with this, nothing. It's just dead. And so I'm supposed to believe that these two have fallen in love. It is so cringe. It is just unbelievably cringe. So yeah, that happens. They get the blood sword, and fire erupts. I believe this account even made another meme on that, which was pretty hilarious. So let me get this straight. Sauron made a magical blood sword that is simply a mechanical key that opens some ancient floodgates. Okay, and this only works if precise trenches are dug to guide the water to Mount Doom. Okay, alright. Explosion ensues. Villagers die. They can't catch a break, man. And then you see she is consumed by the flame or whatever, and that's where we left off. Now, at least stuff happened this episode. Stuff did happen. There was some fighting. It wasn't really good, but stuff happened. So at least my attention span had something to pay attention to. And so for that, I will say this was the best episode. But unfortunately, it does fall extremely flat. There are a lot of issues with it. And this is the thing for me, is you can tell a passion project. You can tell when somebody actually cares about something that they're making. And that's why I feel like with the Peter Jackson trilogy of Lord of the Rings, you can tell that there was a lot of passion behind it. It wasn't just, to milk the cash cow, or it wasn't just to send a message. Like, you can tell Peter Jackson prioritized getting Tolkien's message out there above his own and whatever he would want. And you really, it makes so much of a difference when someone is a fan of something and they're producing something that they actually care about versus a cash grab, or just to try to put their own message in politics, or just to try to, in this case, fix Tolkien's work for a modern audience. Let's let this reflect the modern world. Do we want to watch the modern world, or do we want to watch Tolkien's universe, Middle Earth? Which one is it? You can't have both in this situation. It's just a joke. So this is where we're at. And of course, I'm using a lot of pictures from people who are, yes, woo, get it. Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. Whoa, let's go. I figure Amazon's $1 billion budget had to go in to some, I would assume, fake fans. So I might as well use some of their work to comment. No, for real. I do know some people do legitimately like this. Don't come after any of these people. They're allowed to like it. So I'm just having fun dunking on it. But I do find that most of the praise is just all about stuff like this. Two queens praising each other. I love it. And here you have little Bronwyn and biracial Angelina Jolie, because they had a moment here. They had a moment of women supporting women. She is beautiful. I'll give her that, because her and Halbrand, at least when I'm really bored and I'm trying to pay attention to what's going on, Halbrand and biracial Angelina Jolie here, they give us something pretty to look at sometimes. So that's something. I will give them credit for that. But anyway, yeah. That's it. This is my analysis for the latest episode. It's sad. Like I said, you can tell a difference between when somebody is actually passionate about the project. And I hate it. As much as I dunk on it, make fun of it, like, I ain't trying to knock all of the actors who are a part of this and stuff, because, man, they might actually care, and I'm sure they were really excited for this and thought it was going to be their big break, and it sucks for them that they were a part of a project that clearly is heartless and there's no soul to it, and that Amazon cares more about rewriting Tolkien's legacy than they do actually creating something for the fans. So, yeah, I do feel bad for those who were a part of it, especially since they weren't paid nearly enough for a $1 billion production. So they didn't get the big break they really thought they were getting. So it does have to be sad for them. But anyway, that's it. I can ramble on forever, but I will spare you guys that. That's my impressions of the latest episode of Rings of Power. I'll catch you next time. And in the meantime, go boom.